Welcome to our presentation on the evolving role of social media influencer and urgent need of regulatory oversight in digital marketing. Here is our team behind this research, each of us contributing different areas of the study. This is overview of the key section will cover today presentation from the introduction and recommendation and reference. Influencer marketing has rapidly grown into 21.1 billion industry driven in the consumer engagement and platform monetization while influencer appear authenticated many blur the line of between personal opinion and the paid promotion. Two type of exist sponsored influencer paid by brand and those earning from the view or hit. However, most consumers struggle to tell them apart, raising ethical concern in the UK. Rule 11 under the 2008 Consumer Protection Regulation mandate transparency, but the information by the ASA is limited with 65% of influencer and ads is still not properly labeled. The research investigate whether the existing regulation are sufficient and if not, what the future regulatory model could be look like a better protect and the public ensure accountability in the digital marketing. We choose this topic because influencer marketing now play a dominant role in the shaping consumer behavior yet operate in a regulatory green zone. ASA reports highlight and present problem with disclosure and the consumer often don't release they are being marketed to this raise concern and call for a stronger protection to explore the complex and rapidly changing issue. We have been taken systematic literature review. This enable us regularly examining of academic finding industry by analyzing both gap in the policy of public understanding our aim and evaluate is tighter reference necessary and if so what should you look like, who should enforce it. The next one is research aim objective question. The research aim to access the role of influence in shaping of consumer behavior whether the current regulation offer enough protection is increasingly digital marketplace. Our object is fivefold examine how influencer build trust, explore distinction between influence type of evaluate current use protection assess international regulatory framework and provide practical recommendation to guide this. We have been formulate five core questions. These address issue of
Next slide.
account
Next
authenticity,
slide.
transparency, regulatory gaps. Next slide is literature review, influence of authenticity and consumer. The slide explore how authenticity and trust interest with the influencer behavior influencer build their following on the perceived honestly and reliability in 2018 prescription become a problematic wherever commercial interest take over research by the Borman in 2017 revealed that user offer cannot be differentiate between paid and organic content especially this make a followers vulnerable or hidden processing. Furthermore, in 2019 demonstrate how trust decline as audience grow more sympathetic influence who seems like 2017. As next slide is literature review regulation of transparency and theoretical framework. Here we are examining regulation and it work theoretical underpinning the UK Rule 11 prohibited directive of 2022 report found 65% influencer post failed to meet transparency standard with many hiding disclosure in less visible part of content international Example like France mandatory partnership label, Norway digital image law, such as growing awareness, but regulation remain. Transparency tools such as hashtag are easily manipulated, leading to public confusion. As theory remind us, influencer brands, platforms, and even government all the shared responsibility. Our study applies these frameworks to explore whether the current regulation is enough or need expansion to ensure the accountability. My next slide, methodology, my friend will explain. Rajat, thank you so much.
Thank you, Osman. And my next slide will be methodology. The study follows allows Sundar Research to guide its methodology design. We adopt an interpretative philosophy to understand subjective experience related to influencer authenticity and regulation. And inductive approach is appropriate as we are drawing upon pattern from literature rather than testing a hypothesis. Our monomethod qualitative design using a systematic literature review (SLR) enable as focus analysis of public's insight. We choose a longitudinal time horizon covering literature from 2019 to 2024 to observe how influencer regulation has evolved post GDPR and during the rise of TikTok and algorithm drive engagement. The structured design allow how to us to explore how influencer practice intersect with the regulatory gaps while maintaining methodological coherence. Can I have my next slide? Data collection technique. Our data collection focus on academic literature from 7 databases, including Scopus, Web of Science, and Science Direct. We avoid tools like a Google Scholar to ensure peer review reliability using Boolean logic. We develop a targeting search strike, combining key term like influencer marketing, regulation, and transparency. The review period span from 2019 to 2024 to reflect recent regulatory development and post-pandemic trend in influencer content. Inclusive criteria were English language peer review article focus on influencer authenticity. Consumer trust on regulation. We exclude blogging, opinion piece, or outdated studies. This process grounded in established research from frameworks, ensure methodological transparency, and strengthen the quality of our systematic review. Can I have my next slide? Data analysis procedure. For analysis, we use Brown and Clark six phases thematic analysis strategy that begin with the familiarization, reading, and annotating each article and proceed through coding, theme development, reviewing, naming, and finally reporting. Thematic analysis is deal for qualitative synthesis as it uncover hidden patterns across diverse study. It enable us to track recurring issue like lack of transparency, trust erosion, on the role of regulatory bodies. The technology accept model and stakeholder theory inform our interpretation of these themes. The structure theory backing approach ensure Roger in our review and support the development of particle recommendation based on academic insight and policy relevance. Can I have my next slide, please? Prisma Prisma flowchart. This Prisma flowchart outline the systematic screening process used in our review. We initially identified 2,782 record across 7 academic database. After removing 139 duplicates, 2,643 records were screened for relevance, 2,147 were excluded at this stage, and 496 were shortlisted for full-time retrieval. Of these, 233 could not be accessed. Among the 263 accessed, excluding were made for indirect relevance, non-peer review sources, publication outside the 2019 to 2024 range, and non-English articles. Ultimately, 14 high qualitatively relevant studies were included in our final synthesis. This procedure ensures Roger transparency and alignment with best practices in systematic literature review methodology. And my next slide, please. Descriptive statistics, year and methodology. Here we present the distribution of studies by year and research methodology. The majority of included articles were published in year 2024, reflecting increased academic interest in influencer regulation in recent year. Publications were relatively appears between 2019 to 2023 with only 1 to 2 studies per year. But the sharp increase in 2024 suggests a growing urgency in addressing digital trust and transparency. In terms of methodology, qualitative approach dominate, making up 43% of the study, aligned with the interpretive nature of our topic, focus on how consumer perceive authenticity and regulation. A notable portion of study fell into the other category, like including conceptual or theoretical work, while qualitatives and mixing methodology study were less common in the specific area. Can I next slide? Descriptive, statics, journal, and database. My next slide, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. This slide details the publication source by journal and database. Thus, 14 selected studies were highly diverse with no duplication across journals, indicating that influencer regulation is across disciplinary topic. Journals ranged from media ethic and communication to legal and marketing focus outlet. This diverse reinforce the multidimensional nature of the research problem. In terms of database, Scopes provide the highest number of relevance article contribution 5 studies. Emerland was the second most productive source, while other key databases such as Springer, Shea, Joster, and IPSCO host contribution one article each. This wide database spread ensure a comprehensive review and reduce source bias, enhancing the rigor and reliability of our systematic literature review process. And can I have my next slide, please? Theme identification. To structure and our finding, we conduct a rigor thematic analysis follow Brown and Clark's step framework. After familiarization with all 14 studies, we generated initial code, sorted them into pattern, reviewing these themes collaboratively and clearly define their boundaries. Four major themes emerge: influencer, authenticity and trust, influencer type and monetization, effectiveness of regulatory framework, and consumer protect, protection and policy reform. Each theme consolidate evidence from multiple articles, highlightly recurring issue in influential marketing and regulation. For example, several 2024 studies address how influencer credibility affect trust, while others explore how disclosure methods, platform responsibility, or monetization models impact transparency and consumer outcomes. This themes structure provide the foundation of for our discussion and ensure alignment with our research objective and questions. Each article was carefully mapped to its relevant theme, ensure robust and reliable synthesis across all data sources. And I'm going to hand over the next slide, my colleague Rehan.
Thank you, Rajat. I will explain theme 1 and 2. So our first two themes explore how influencer authenticity and monetization models shape consumer trust and perception. In theme 1, several studies confirm that authenticity is a critical trust driver, especially among Generation Z. ATS highlights that the emotional connection, not just factual reliability, motivates trust and purchase behavior. Leo also said found that the verification badges act as the powerful third-party trust signal, especially for micro-influencers. Similarly, OGM said that demonstrate that consumers trust influencers who display sincere passion during crisis. Transparency also plays a major role, and Balaban shows that the clear disclosure enhances trust even in sponsored content. Theme to shift the focus to influencers type and monetization models. So Geffardi and Van der Goot explain that the mega influencer tend to be seen as more commercial, those requiring greater disclosure for trust maintenance. Interestingly, verified micro influencers gain more credibility than macro ones. So, especially when their income dependent on engagement rather than sponsorship. Older studies, legal recognition of different influencer types. These themes confirm that the both influencer authenticity and the perceived motivation behind their content significantly affect consumer trust, laying the foundation for deeper regulatory insights. Can I get my next All right. So also I explained theme 3 and 4. In this slide, we present the final two themes, which focus on our regulatory framework and consumer protection. Theme 3 explored the effectiveness of current legal mechanism. Sudiram says show that some jurisdiction like Indonesia still lack specific law targeting influencer practice. Really critique existing EU and US regulation for focusing narrowly on deception rather than the broader manipulative practices. Studies by Martinez and Chaturbedi also show that the platform-based policies often diverge from the national legal standards, causing regulatory misalignment. Annabelle also further argued that in the UK, agencies like the ASA lack of power to penalize violations, making enforcement largely effective. So Theme 4 address policy reform and consumer protection. So and Bello advocate for improved design of disclosure tools, especially header-based labels which increase consumer clarity. Studies also reveal that the vulnerable group, especially youth, remain at high risk for manipulative influencer practices, including unlabeled and promotions of the unhealthy food and misleading healthy claims. Annabelle's and Chaturbedi said, like supporting integrating as based monitoring and international policy harmonization. These themes strongly indicate the need for stricter proactive regulation and the includes platforms accountability and design label transparency features to better protect consumer. So the next slide, recommendation toward transparent and accountable influencer marketing. So based on our thematic synthesis, we propose 5 key policies and practice recommendation. First, platform like Instagram and TikTok must implement mandatory header based on disclosure, which have been shown to increase engagement and trust significantly. Chao, Bello, and Annabella. Second, we recommendation that regulator legally distinguish influencer types, sponsored versus monetization driven. So since these types impact consumers' perception and regulation differently, said Reali and Gofardi. Also, third one, regulatory focus must extend accountability to platform which often enable or obscure disclosures through poor interface design, said Annabelle. And fourth one, emerging the technology like AI should be embedded into compliance effort to flag disclosure and misleading poster scale. Last one, regulatory effort must address emotional manipulations, particularly young users who are more affected by trust-based and parasocial content than rational disclosure. So this the combined reform aim to promote transparency, accountability, and ethical integrity in influencer marketing. They also shift the burden from users to platform and regulators aligns responsibility across ecosystem. Lastly, I will explain. Can I get the next one? So conclusion, final insights from the systematic review. Our systematic literature review confirmed that the authenticity is the cornerstone of influencer trust, particularly among Gen Z. Emotional attachment perceived sincerely, the visible credibility cues like a verified badge are key the predictors of consumer engagement, said ATS and OGM, Leo also. So influencer type also shapes consumer expectation, while the mega influencers are viewed as commercial. So nano influencer are also seen as more relatable. However, so disclosure mechanisms such as paid partnership checks help label the field and maintain transparency, said Gafardi Bander also. Crucially, our finding highlights that the current regulatory framework are insufficient, while the emphasis disclosure. They fail to address broader concern like emotional manipulation, platform accountability, and cross-border enforcement, said Reale and Squeeth and Fraser. There's also need to shift from influencer-focused penalties to platform central governance, especially when platforms shape monetization pathway but escapes liability. So global frame fragmentation of standards calls for international harmonization, ensuring that digital consumers are consistently protected, regardless of platform or jurisdiction, said the Sudiram. So the last, in conclusion, a multi-level, emotional aware and platform inclusive regulatory model is the essential to protect consumer and restore trust in the influencer marketing. Can I get my last reference? Yeah. So here all reference used in this research. So thank you for your patience.
Thank you so much, guys, for presenting.